Number 1.
Choose a place you go to often that is important to you and explain why it is important. Please include specific details in your explanation.
You may begin to prepare your response after the beep. Please begin your response after the beep. Number 2.
Some college students choose to take courses in a variety of subject areas in order to get a broad education. Others choose to focus on a single subject area in order to have a deeper understanding of that area. Which approach to course selection do you think is better for students, and why?
You may begin to prepare your response after the beep. Please begin your response after the beep. Number 3.
The university is planning to eliminate its bus service. Read the article from the university newspaper about the plan. You will have 45 seconds to read the article. Begin reading now. Now listen to two students discussing the article.
I don't like the university's plan.
Really? I've ridden those buses, and sometimes there were only a few people on the bus. It did seem like kind of a waste.
I see your point, but I think the problem is the route's out of date. It only goes through the neighborhoods that have gotten too expensive for students to live in. It's ridiculous that they haven't already changed the route, so it goes where most off-campus students live now. I bet if they did that, they'd get plenty of students riding those buses.
Well, at least they're adding more parking. It's gotten really tough to find a space.
That's the other part I don't like, actually. Cutting back the bus service and adding parking's just going to encourage more students to drive on campus. And that'll just add to the noise around campus and create more traffic. And that'll increase the need for more parking spaces.
Yeah, I guess I can see your point. Maybe it would be better if more students used the buses instead of driving.
Right. And the university should make it easier to do that, not harder.
The man expresses his opinion of the university's plan to eliminate the bus service. State his opinion and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion.
You may begin to prepare your response after the beep. Please begin your response after the beep. Number 4.
Now read the passage about the nature of social interaction. You will have 45 seconds to read the passage. Begin reading now. Now listen to part of a talk in a sociology class. The professor is discussing audience effects.
Okay, so we said that the way we interact with others has an impact on our behavior. In fact, there's some interesting research to suggest that in one type of interaction, when we're being observed, specifically when we know we're being watched as we perform some activity, we tend to increase the speed at which we perform that activity. In one study, college students were asked to each put on a pair of shoes with laces they would have to tie. Now, one group of students was told that they would be observed. The second group, however, didn't know they were being observed. The students who were aware that they were being watched actually tied their shoes much faster than the students who thought they were alone. Other studies confirm the same is true even when we're learning new activities. Let's say someone is learning a new task, for example, learning how to type. When they're conscious of being observed, they'll likely begin typing at a much faster rate than they would if they were alone. But, and this is interesting, the study also showed that certain common behavior, things people typically do, like making mistakes when you're learning something new, that behavior pattern will also increase. So in other words, when we're learning to type and we know we're being watched, we'll type faster, but we'll also make more mistakes.
Explain how the examples of tying shoes and learning to type demonstrate the principle of audience effects.
You may begin to prepare your response after the beep. Please begin your response after the beep. Number 5.
Listen to a conversation between a student and her geology professor.
Mary, I'm so glad I ran into you.
Oh, hello, Professor Jensen.
Listen, I know it's short notice, and maybe you've already made plans for spring break, but one of my students just dropped out of the field trip to the Smithson River Caves. You're next on the waiting list, so now there's room for you to come along.
You're kidding. I didn't think there was a chance, and, well, it's a 3-day trip, right? I agreed to spend next week helping Professor Clark set up the new museum exhibition. I think she's really counting on me.
Yeah, 3 days. But you know, if you'd rather come on the field trip, why not speak with her and see if she has anyone to replace you?
Yeah, I'd hate to miss out on the caves. I'll definitely ask Professor Clark if there's someone else who could help her.
You know, we don't leave until Wednesday. If you still have to help out, any chance you could get the museum set up done before then?
Oh, yeah. Not until Wednesday. So then, yeah, maybe that's possible too.
The speakers discuss 2 possible solutions to the woman's problem. Describe the problem and the 2 solutions. Then explain what you think the woman should do and why.
You may begin to prepare your response after the beep. Please begin your response after the beep. Number 6.
Now listen to part of a talk in an economics class.
So, let's talk about money. What is money? Well, typically people think of coins and paper bills as money, but that's using a somewhat narrow definition of the term. A broad definition is this: money is anything that people can use to make purchases with. Since many things can be used to make purchases, money can have many different forms. Certainly, coins and bills are one form of money. People exchange goods and services for coins or paper bills, and they use this money, these bills, to obtain other goods and services. For example, you might give a taxi driver $5 to purchase a ride in his taxi, and he in turn gives the $5 to a farmer to buy some vegetables. But as I said, coins and bills aren't the only form of money under this broad definition. Some societies make use of a barter system. Basically, in a barter system, people exchange goods and services directly for other goods and services. The taxi driver, for example, might give a ride to a farmer in exchange for some vegetables. Since the vegetables are used to pay for a service, by our broad definition, the vegetables are used in barter as a form of money. Now, as I mentioned, there's also a second, a narrower definition of money. In the United States, only coins and bills are legal tender, meaning that by law, a seller must accept them as payment. The taxi driver must accept coins or bills as payment for a taxi ride, okay? But in the U.S., the taxi driver is not required to accept vegetables in exchange for a ride. So a narrower definition of money might be whatever is legal tender in a society, whatever has to be accepted as payment.
Using points and examples from the talk, explain the two definitions of money presented by the professor.
You may begin to prepare your response after the beep. Please begin your response after the beep.
I would like to go. I often go to France because I met a friend of mine 2 years ago, and she invited me already several times, and I've been there already several times. And I always have been fascinated by French history, and I started reading French books. Although in Russian, but not in French, since I was 12. And I've been already in the south, so right now I'm going to the north of the country. And I would like to try their famous yogurt, cheese, wine, and just to see the...
I usually go to the Eastmore or Polaris. That is the shopping malls in Columbus, Ohio. Because I like shopping very much, the shopping is one of my hobby. When something bothers me, and I usually go to the shopping center and I relax my mind. So if I'm looking around the clothes and the shoes, something else, I feel better than before. So I really like to go shopping, and Eastmore or Polaris, I usually go to there because of the shopping.
This is kind of a complicated question. I think it's important to know which stage you are. If you are an undergraduate student, I would rather to take a wide range and wide variety of subjects in different areas, because it would expand my knowledge, would improve my understanding for different topics. On the other hand, if I am a graduate student, I would rather to take specific courses, because if you know, when you are a graduate student, you are working and dealing with a specific topic, and therefore you have to focus.
I think it's better to focus on a single subject area, so that I can have a deeper understanding of that area, and I can be a professional about that topic or whatever the course I'm taking. And it's for me it's easier to concentrate on one thing, and most people will be easier if they concentrate on one thing. And it depends, but I prefer studying on the focused a single subject, so that
What the man is saying here is that he wants to keep the bus service for the better being of all the students on campus because there's some students that can't afford a car, therefore they use the free bus service, even though it's not that much. The problem with the bus service right now is that the bus is going through wrong neighborhoods or it's too expensive for students to live. So what they should do is just change the course of the bus, and that will take care of the problem. Also, they should encourage more students to use the bus instead of discourage them. What would be the case if they use the money that they use for the bus service to increase the space of the parking lots for students, which would add to the noise of the campus, and it would be more congested for all the people who are already parking over there. That's about it.
The man thinks that university's decision is wrong. According to his opinion, the bus shouldn't be eliminated. It creates a lot of trouble. And he thinks basically the bus route should be changed. Due to the existing bus route, many students can't avail the bus, and the overcrowded parking lots is an added problem, which is also due to the not riding the university bus. If the student hasn't a car, and if they cannot avail the bus, then few students are bound to drive their car and obviously overcrowded the parking lot. But it's better to make the change of the bus route, and most of the students should use the bus.
In this lecture, the professor gives two examples to illustrate the principle of audience effects. One of them is tying the shoes, and the other one learning to type. So in the experiment where two groups of students were asked to tie their shoes, the first group was said that they would be observed, and the other one was not told so. And the first group that knew it would be observed tied their shoes faster, and the other one slower. In the second example, learning new activities such as typing, again, when people are conscious of being observed, they type faster. However, they tend to make more mistakes as well. So the suggestion is to practice new activities alone in order to reduce mistakes. So these two...
Well, tying shoes or learning new activities such as typing, trying to learn type and how to type on the computer, the audience definitely have effects on you. For example, if you know that somebody is watching you, then you type faster, or you will tie your shoes faster, but at the same time you'll make more mistakes. However, if you're not aware that somebody is watching you, looking at you, then you may learn slowlier, but therefore you can type slowlier, or but on the other hand, you can decrease the number of errors on your typing. So the research suggests that you should do it by.
The problem is the woman got a chance to go to a field trip, but on the day for the field trip, she needs to do a museum setup for another professor, so she's not available on that day. The solutions are, first one, she could find another helper for the professor to do the setup. The second solution is she could do the setup before Wednesday, when the field trip started, just to do it before she go to the field. So there's two solutions available for her, and I suggest her to do the setup, finish the setup before Wednesday when.
The problem the woman has is that the professor let her to take a 3 days trip during the spring break, but she has something to do to help another professor's work in the museum. So she would very like to go to the trip, but she can't. Now the two solutions is that one is to make somebody to replace her, to find somebody to replace her place, and the other solution is that he should try to finish all of the things she have to do and before Wednesday, because the trip starts at Wednesday. So I think the best way is to try to try to have it.
The professor said that money is a medium of exchange. So anything that you can purchase something with is considered to be money. That's one definition. That means when she uses the example of a taxi driver who accepts money for his ride. But if he drives a fruit selling person, he can also, instead of money, accept fruit for his drive. For the drives he gives the fruit person. So in that case, the fruit is the medium of exchange and not the money. So under the first definition, not only dollar bills and coins are money, but also other mediums of exchange, like fruit, in this case for the taxi driver. On the second definition, she says it's a legal definition. For legal definition, just coins and dollar bills are legal money in this definition.
One of definition of money presented by the professor is money is that anything can exchange with to purchase. For example, including the money, the coin, beer, and the food, vegetable like this. We can exchange with something to buy purchase. So first definition is just anything can exchange with purchase. To another definition of money presented by the professor is whatever legal accepting the whatever. For example.
Now listen to part of a lecture on the topic you just read about.
You know, often in science, new findings force us to re-examine earlier beliefs and assumptions. And a recent study of meerkats is having exactly this effect. The study examined the meerkat's behavior quite closely, much more closely than had ever been done before. And some interesting things were found, like about eating habits. It showed that typically meerkats eat before they stand guard. So the one standing guard had a full stomach. And the study also found that since the sentinel is the first to see a predator coming, it's the most likely to escape, because it often stands guard near a burrow, so it can run immediately into the burrow after giving the alarm. The other meerkats, the ones scattered about looking for food, are actually in greater danger. And in fact, other studies have suggested that when an animal creates an alarm, the alarm call might cause the other group members either to gather together or else to move about very quickly, behaviors that might actually draw the predator's attention away from the caller, increasing that animal's own chances of survival. And what about people? What about some human acts that might be considered altruistic? Let's take an extreme case. Suppose a person donates a kidney to a relative, or even to a complete stranger. A selfless act, right? But doesn't the donor receive appreciation and approval from the stranger and from society? Doesn't the donor gain an increased sense of self-worth? Couldn't such non-material rewards be considered very valuable to some people?